Welcome to Saturday Morning Brew and Chat. We're here in the house. We have Tyler Buechler. Welcome, Tyler. Tyler is a seasoned entrepreneur. He started multiple IT companies over the past 15 years, including his own. And he has started and helped his clients start their business, their tech business, and find funding for it. And I'm Patrice Perillo Saint-Jean. I'm the owner of Open for Business and Start a Business Coach. And I help aspiring small business owners research, vet, plan, and launch their ideal business so that they can build a life they love. So we're here today to talk about tech startup, not small business, not Main Street business, but tech startup, IT startups. And I meet a lot of people who have ideas. I live in Silicon Valley, and there are a lot of people in Silicon Valley who have brilliant ideas, but they don't always have the knowledge, the business knowledge to take that idea and bring it to market and turn it into reality. And this is why we have Tyler Buechler today, who is going to show us or discuss with us what are the best steps to find funding for your tech idea or your IT idea, and then also launch it into the real world so that you can take your idea out of your brain into the market, into real life.
I mean, there can be tech ideas that can be more in function versus information. But yeah, I mean, essentially anything tech can be anything with computers, applications, software development, anything like that.
Great. Well, I can't wait to hear the steps that our clients or our audience needs to take in order to take the idea to the real world and the real market.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, thank you, Patricia. I appreciate that very much. I myself, as you said, I came from a background of 16 plus years of being in the information technology world, growing and starting businesses in the IT space, multiple companies. And across the board, for anybody that's an entrepreneur, if you have a great idea and you want to start your own business, the biggest thing about it is just having some organization and understanding what steps you really need to take in order to kind of set yourself up in order to go and get started. It seems kind of arbitrary. It's kind of just out there in the world for a lot of people, but that organization really comes down to understanding your product and your service really well, and understanding your customer, who you're trying to serve, and then getting a good hold on what exactly is it going to take for you, what are your finances going to look like, and then just go and get the money and get started. It might seem like a bit of an oversimplification, but really it's just a few steps to go and actually take action to get the money that you need and then get going on trying to get your business out there.
So what are the steps? How do you find your user to begin with? What is the best way to find your ideal client?
Yeah, absolutely. There's several different ways that you can go about it. It's actually a lot simpler than you might even think. So let's say that you have a great idea for a new application or some new tech product, right? All you really need to do is survey people. You just need to ask. And so all of us, we all have a massive community of people, our family and our friends, our coworkers, people we know in just the general public. When you go to the grocery store, when you go to the gas station, when you go to all these different places, survey people and ask people exactly, give them your idea and say, hey, if something like this existed, what would you want to see from it? What would be the biggest benefits to you? And you can actually survey these people and find out what are people, real world people, what are they looking for? And so that's actually part of the process, is understanding who is your ideal client? Who are you trying to serve? Because I think too many times people really kind of get caught up in the idea thinking that you're going to start their business and they're so excited and they just want to help everybody. They think the whole world is their customer, right?
Right.
Well, that might be true in some way that you could help everybody, but you can't just cast that wide of a net. You're never really going to get going or get any clients if you think that you're just going to go after the whole world. You have to get really laser focused and figure out who is the perfect candidate. Not everybody in the world. Who is the perfect one? Who is the exact person that needs exactly what you have, what you're building, and who could benefit from it the most? Because that person is the one that will be the most excited, they'll be the most eager and most ready, and will jump up and down and say, yes, absolutely, I want to pay for what you have. I want it that bad. So and those are the clients you're looking for.
I was reading a book called Start with a Why, by Simon Sinek, and he's talking about the idea is that you need to find your early adopters. And
Yep.
that's how you start a business. This is how you get to the tipping point of growing your products and putting it to market. And you find your early adopters, because if you try to reach people who are not going to be your early, or actually you need to find the innovators and then the early adopters, right? Because if you try to find the people who are going to be interested in the product, and that's a wider audience, it's going to be very expensive to try to do that, right? So finding the early adopters is the key, so that, but in order to do that, you need to make sure that your product is really going to answer a problem, right?
Yep, exactly.
And
exactly.
That they may not know they have, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you're exactly right. And it's exactly that reason there why you can't just go after absolutely everybody. As he says in his book, and as you're just talking about now, the early adopters are going to be the people that have the exact pain point you're trying to solve, and it's going to really resonate with them. They're going to be the ones that are going to jump up and down and scream, yes, I need that. And so finding those people is simply a matter of, you have a great idea, you have a problem you're solving with your product or service that you're building, and it's just identifying who those people are. And it's a lot of it is trial and error. It's through asking people, putting surveys out there, and getting responses and seeing what the common responses are. What do people really want? What's their real pain? What's causing them frustration that you can fix for them? And that's how you identify that ideal client. And then from there, it's moving on to the next step. Again, it gets to be very emotional. It gets to be very broad for a lot of people when starting their business. And so I also talk about how people may have all kinds of ideas. If this is your new project or your new business, this is your baby. And you probably have 1,000 ideas of all kinds of cool features and functions that you can build into it. But that doesn't mean that you should do all of that right from the start. The next step, after you figure out who is your ideal customer, who is the person you're going after exactly, now you need to figure out what we call our MVP, or our minimum viable product. The idea is that you have to start with the very minimum, the least amount that you have to do for work in order to truly be a fantastic product and satisfy their wants and desires and their needs, so that you can get those innovators and early adopters as a client without building everything in there. You need to have more for innovation continuing down the road afterwards anyway. But if you try and build everything in right from the start, you're going to spend all of your time and your money and never actually get anywhere, constantly improving the product without ever having gotten customers.
So I see a lot of that. I see people who say, I have a product, but it's not finished yet. I want to finish it before. And I'm like, no, don't finish it. Because how do you know even that you're on the right path? How do you even know that's what your customers want? That's what you want. But that's in your head, right?
Yep, exactly. You're exactly right. They have an idea in their head, and we all do. When it's yours, you're so emotionally involved and you're excited. You think that you have everything figured out and you're going to put all of this into it. But in reality, it's just like we did before with the ideal customer. Now we're going to say to those same customers, what are the 3 things that you would absolutely have to have? What would change your world and make your life so much better and easier with this product if it did these things? Give me the 3. And all you do is really ask people, survey as many as you can. And the 3 most common that you get, that's simply where you start, because that's what people are telling you. This is exactly what we want. This is what we would pay for. You can always build more stuff in later, and that gives you an opportunity later to build in add-on features that you can upcharge for, and more new innovation into the product to keep getting people excited and to reach a broader base.
And by
listening,
listening,
you just have to go after those first early adopters and what are they looking for?
Right. No, but here's the thing. I think it was Henry Ford who said, if I had asked people what they want, they would have said a faster horse, right? Mm-hmm. And then I think it was also Steve Jobs said that people don't know exactly what they want. So how do you figure that out? How do you come up with an idea that people may not even know that they need yet, because they don't even know, they can't imagine its existence if it's really disruptive.
Yeah, no, it's true. Sometimes you do have something that is so cutting edge and so disruptive, it's a little bit difficult because people, even asking them, they're not on the same page as you because you have something so forward thinking. Right. In that case, you could ask, you're designing something, like, let's say it was Henry Ford making the car, right? Mm-hmm. His idea was transportation. So instead of asking somebody, what would you want? They would say a faster horse. He would ask you're trying to solve a problem of getting somewhere quicker. So you would ask people, what are the problems with trying to take a horse on a 500-mile journey? Ask questions around what makes your life easier. You need to get there quicker. You don't have all the money and the time for feeding and taking care of the animal. If you had a machine that could get you there, it would work better. It's being innovative with your own questions as well. Asking people, getting to the point of understanding really what are their pain points. Because their pain really isn't the fact that they want a faster horse. They need to get somewhere quicker. They need to do it more efficiently. So that's really what you're looking to solve with your new innovative product. And so any product really is like that. You have an idea of what you're doing. It's solving people's pain points. Understand the client and understand where their pain points are. And just know that even when they tell you, I want a faster horse, well, they're just telling you, I need to get somewhere quicker and more efficiently.
Right, right. And that reminds me of the principle of the lean startup, right? With Maria, find the problem, right? What is the problem at large that you're trying to solve, right?
Exactly.
So fall in love with the problem before you fall in love with the solution.
Absolutely.
But looking at, instead of, like you said, looking at the bigger picture of your question, transportation as opposed to faster horse, right? That, I think that's a very helpful tip, because a lot of people, focus because they focus on the solution. If they focus on the problem, which is going somewhere faster,
right,
then they probably would find a better way to create a new product.
Absolutely.
Now, I don't want to monopolize the conversation here. Is anybody having does anyone have a question that they would like to ask to Tyler about, finding the idea to launch and launching it?
Well, can I just say something?
Of course.
Yeah.
So I started, my career as a psychotherapist. So I only heard the problems. So I was in an ideal situation to come up with the solution, right? And people were depressed or anxious, and I finally, later in my life, started the coaching business, zooming in on career satisfaction, right? Because people were depressed, unhappy, complaining about, a big chunk of their time, which was work. So it's kind of the flip side of going out looking for a problem. The problems were coming to me.
Yep.
Wow, that would be
nice. You were in a unique position there in which you didn't have to look too hard. They, like you said, they were coming to you. You just had to kind of filter through them and figure out what are the pain points that I can solve.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's people will, if you give people the opportunity, they love to ask, have you ask questions of them and give them free rein to talk. And all you have to do is really kind of listen closely and understand, well, what is their actual pain point and how can I solve that?
Right. And I think so you're walking out into the world. You are thinking, what are the problems here and what technological solution can I offer?
Absolutely. Yep. It's all a human problem, and we all have problems. It's just understanding which ones can I solve with my technology. I have an idea for something new. What can I do for people that will make their lives easier, make them better?
Nice. I love that.
Absolutely.
Well, I was wondering, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering now, that's kind of a problem right there, is a lot of times people will have, I guess you're going to be talking about this later. I might be talking out of course, but if they have an idea, and it might not even be a for-profit, it might be like a community project. So, a lot of times the business incubators, they don't just throw money at anybody. Usually you have to have the website already developed, or you need to have something that they can take a look at. Maybe even already have some of your own capital invested. And so what about those people that aren't at that stage, that don't even have their idea developed yet into a website or an app?
Yeah, it's a great question. So essentially, they haven't put any of the time and money into it yet. They just have the concept. They just have the idea in their head. You can still do the same thing as far as understanding who your ideal client is, So understanding what are people really looking for before you build it, and then also understanding what is the minimum you would need to build. From that point, then it is understanding a little bit further into what do you think that you would actually need. So all of this goes towards building a business plan that you can use to actually obtain financing, right? So when you understand those things, then you can figure out a little bit more of what are your expenses. Now, a lot of things with technology, like you were just talking about, James, if it's a website or if it's an application, it can be really difficult. It can be arbitrary to understand how much it's going to take as far as development of that. But when you narrow it down and you have your top 3 things, so you know your minimum viable product, that can be much more easily pinpointed as far as how much time and money that'll take just to develop those things. And then besides that, it's, everything else. You make a list, essentially make a list of what are all the things you would need on a recurring monthly basis. Do you need to have actual office space? That's a monthly expense. Do you need any other employees to start with? Stuff like that. Are there software programs that you need to have that you pay for either monthly or annually in order to do the programming, in order to get your product or service developed? When you figure all those things out, then you actually have a business plan that you can put together with some solid numbers. And then that way you can actually go and talk to investors. And that's another thing that holds a lot of people back is, like you were talking about, getting that financing. A lot of people don't really know where to go. It's very widely known. People think about the banks, going to a bank to get a business loan. However, if you don't have anything or if you don't have enough, let's say, as far as your own capital or collateral to put up for it, that can make things difficult as well. But there are so many different ways to get financing, and it's getting creative with those in order to make that happen. Because you can work with the banks, and there are different ways to do that, not just a straight up business loan. But then there's also working with angel investors, there's crowdfunding, there's self-financing and using family and friends. There are many different other agencies that call themselves fintech that are like banks that will loan money as well. So there are a lot of different places that you can go for that.
Right. And also there's the credit card, right? If you have decent credit, I mean, even in the small business world or Main Street business that I operate with, I've had clients who started their own business that eventually became a bigger business with just a unsecured line of credit, which is, if you have decent credit, it's fairly easy to get, especially here in the US. You can start your business that way, at least do your initial research with that and show that you have a little bit of skin in the game when you're looking for additional financing.
Absolutely. Never underestimate that. It's something that a lot of people don't immediately think of. They think it might be too risky, or they don't think that they can get enough. But if you really look into it, it's a viable option. I myself and my business partners, when we first got started in our first businesses in the IT space, we did a lot of self-financing using our personal credit cards. And yeah, you know what? It's a little bit more expensive money, but it got us to where we needed to be. It got us to a point where we could get those clients, those first clients, get the business actually up and running. And we kept on working hard until we got to the point where we were financeable through banks and other lending agencies.
Yeah. Some of those unsecured line of credit, which are like credit cards, give you 0% interest for X amount of time, right?
Yep.
So you have a little bit of a window to, if you're careful, a window to work on your product. And then by the time you have to pay interest, then, hopefully it's more developed.
Yep, and you will get other offers from companies in which you can open one that you can do a balance transfer from that other card, and then that's 0% interest. And so you can kind of parlay those on top of each other to extend that 0% interest for yourself as well. That's
an interesting creative idea. So
we did a lot of that.
Yeah, and it's very scrappy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. In fact, I heard an ad just the other day talking about exactly this. The ad said that the Tito's vodka company that's very popular all over the U.S., they started their company by opening 19 credit cards and maxing those credit cards out. And that's how they began their business. And now, $1 billion company.
Wow, that takes a lot of guts too.
Yeah, absolutely.
19 credit cards.
Yep, that's how they began. Now, again, I always talk about with people, you don't have to do it all in one place either. They did that, but you could go and get financing. You might get a smaller loan from the bank. You might be able to borrow some money from some friends and family. You can open some of your own credit cards. You might still be able to do a crowdfunding venture for yourself. You can combine all of these things too, so you can spread out all of that liability, and you don't have to have all of your eggs in one basket, so to speak.
True. I'm curious about crowdfunding. Do you have examples of success stories of people who have financed their business with crowdfunding, and how does that work exactly?
Yeah, absolutely. So crowdfunding really as a term is talking about a lot of different people giving some money to help get, the business venture going. So traditionally, if you think about crowdfunding, something that comes to mind is something like Kickstarter. If you're familiar with the Kickstarter website, anybody with an idea can go onto Kickstarter, and if you have an organized idea of what you want to build, and you have some screenshots and video, and you explain it very well on Kickstarter of this is what you have. Maybe you have a prototype if it's a physical product or a software, and you show people what it is, then anyone that wants your product or service can contribute and donate to you. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the unique and awesome things about crowdfunding also is the fact that when you go and do it this way, you're getting money from all of these other people in exchange for your product or service once it's done, right? Mm-hmm. You're not borrowing money from a bank that you have to start paying interest on right from the start. Also, you're kind of accomplishing some of these first steps that we talked about all through the Kickstarter campaign. True. So like we talked about finding your ideal client, mm-hmm. and figuring out your MVP, your minimum viable product. You can also do those things through a Kickstarter campaign, because the people that are going to check out your product or service and interact with you and give you money, those are the people that are already telling you, I'm your ideal client. I like what you got there. I want to pay for it.
I never thought about this.
Yeah, so you're already accomplishing that step. Plus, when people are on there, they'll give you feedback on what they think is good and not good. You can also then figure out what is your MVP. What are the 3 things that everybody is asking for that's interacting with you on your campaign? So you're achieving your goal of getting money. You're figuring out who your ideal client is. You're also figuring out what are they looking for, what's their minimum viable product that they want, and on top of all of it, you're also doing some marketing for yourself.
Wow.
So you're really accomplishing a lot of things by doing something like a Kickstarter campaign, which anybody can go and do.
I never thought about that. Actually, is brilliant, because
mm-hmm.
Who is going to want to spend $10, $20, $50, $100, $200 on a product if they're not really interested in it? So that if they're spending a little bit of money, even $1, if they're spending a bit of money, they are your ideal client.
Yep, and those people that you're getting, those are going to be your innovators and early adopter type of people, because that's a personality that's going to go onto a Kickstarter website and give money to something that doesn't even exist yet.
That is so awesome. And you could even do it, let's say if it's a Main Street business, not a tech business, but a Main mm-hmm. Street business, you could even do it with your neighborhood, because let's say if it's something that you sell in the neighborhood, like a restaurant or yoga studio, you could even do that.
Absolutely.
And create something unique, and at the same time, get people's feedback. That is just, I never thought about crowdfunding as being something as a business research tool.
Yeah, absolutely. You can accomplish a lot of goals by doing a campaign like that. And so now Kickstarter is one great way to do that, but crowdfunding really applies to all kinds of things. Angel investors is a term that has been around for a while, and a lot of people understand angel investors to either be individuals or maybe a company or a small group of people that will invest in other people's businesses. Even that concept has become more of the way of crowdfunding. You can actually go online and find different websites where you can present your idea, just like on the Kickstarter type campaign, and there are angel investors out there, big groups, and anybody can join and participate. And if they like your business, we'll be able to contribute to you as well as far as funding your startup.
Yeah, I've worked with a network of angel investors like that
mm-hmm.
all over the world, and they, they do have some standards in order to pitch your idea to a group.
Yep.
To their members who actually are the investors. You do have to have certain standards, and you have to have a business plan and a presentation within 15 minutes. And then you're right. I remember now they will present the idea to seek initial funding, but they also will get a lot of feedback and even connections sometimes.
Yes.
feedback
Yep.
of the idea and connections of other people who could help them grow their idea if the idea
Yep.
is valid to them.
Yep. One of the huge advantages of that is exactly what you just said. Within the angel investing networks, it's connections. It's being able to get connected with so many more people, even beyond just the initial startup that you can get.
Right.
You can get the funding to get started, but as you continue to go and grow your company, you're always going to need more funding and things change. You're getting connections to people that can help you at every step of the way as you go as well. So they can do the same thing. And all of these are going towards exactly that stuff that we said in the beginning. It's getting organized, figuring out exactly what does my ideal user look like? What is, paint a perfect picture of the person that I want to go after that will be my perfect customer. What do I need to build? What is the minimum thing I need to build in order to make them happy? I can always add on to it later. Then figuring out what exactly are my expenses, just making lists and getting as close as you can, and you're ready to go after and get the funding you need.
So you just illustrated really something that a lot of creators are not aware of, in my opinion. You know, the steps. I mean, it's not just, okay, I've got an idea and then here I am going to be programming and creating and in my little bubble, right?
Yep.
You really identified the steps. Number one, the problem or you know, your ideal customer by just talking to everybody, even including the gas station people, right?
Yes, exactly.
There, then you start with creating funding, financing with maybe unsecured or some creative ways of getting money. And the crowdfunding helps you get more feedback. You can even do angel invest. So there's like a sequence there of steps that you just described for somebody who has a decent idea in their head that they want to take to market. So
Exactly.
So what are the pitfalls of these ideas? For example, you know, angel investors or crowdfunding, are there any pitfalls to that to be aware of? Or maybe some disadvantages?
To be honest, it really all depends on your business and your personality and how you like to do things. You know, if you feel more comfortable, more secure with it yourself, you can go to the bank and get a traditional business loan. And if you don't qualify for that, there's also in the United States, there's something called the SBA, Small Business Administration, which will partner with banks in order to make it easier for you.
Yeah.
Canada has their own equivalent of that as well. As far as Kickstarter and angel investors go, really all you need to do is be thorough and thought out in your own plans, do your due diligence on this research, and I mean the really only way to lose is to just give up or not even try. I mean, as long as you go through, I know a lot of people that have been very successful doing it. It just takes some passion and taking action to go after it and get it.
Well, I would say the one potential pitfall would be if you have a good idea, there are a lot of people out there who like to copy ideas rather than maybe they're not so good with coming up with their own. And somebody with more capital could steal your idea and pretty much steamroll you right out of the market by, you know, having 100 times larger advertising budget for basically the same product or service. So I think that would be the only risk. And I know with the website I'm on, which links to various investor startup accelerators, I guess they call them. You used to be able to put your company in stealth mode so that I think only the investors you actually applied for a deadline to could see your page. But that's one thing that I'm worried about is I mean, it's worse just to sit on your bottom and not do anything, of course, but nothing ventured, nothing tried. But I think in some cases, stealth is a factor to keep into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the feedback, James. And yeah, it is definitely something that you do need to take into consideration. That can happen. I do know, though, that in my experience, there were so many times that we would talk with people, and more often than not, when you're talking about other people within the business community, people respect that and understand where you're coming from. And usually it led to more connections and more ideas for ourselves, really, rather than somebody else. But in order to do stuff like what you're talking about, where you can go into stealth mode, there are other things that you can do. You know, you can put together a non-disclosure agreement for yourself so that if you are talking to somebody on a personal level, you know, then you can kind of protect yourself that way. And you can talk to an attorney for very little money to make it more detailed and more airtight for yourself. But, when you go on, say, Kickstarter or any of these other pages and everything too, you have a lot of people that are looking to support the community rather than take something from you. And so it can be, a huge upside. And yes, there is the potential there, but I really haven't heard many stories of it actually coming to that either.
Right, and I think there is a decision to make between not getting enough feedback to make your idea successful because you want to keep it secret, and I think there are more disadvantages, like you said, more disadvantages of not doing that than there are risk of somebody taking your idea. Because the ideas are easy, the implementation and taking action is what's difficult.
Absolutely.
Right? So. And the same happens in the small business world. People think they have come up with a brilliant idea, and it may be, and they're paranoid that everybody's going to steal it because they think it's so good. But the reality is you have more to lose by not really, doing the research and protecting your idea from being out there. So unless it's a state secret or something really, I feel like,
Absolutely.
most of the time, 90% of the time, it's not founded, But it is a good point to bring up, James, because that's what a lot of people are worried about. They don't do the research because they are worried that somebody is going to steal it, and it's something to think about,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if somebody does try to take it and copy it, more chances are so much more likely that you will be successful with your own business idea rather than them. You have the passion behind it. You have the innovation. You have more ideas than even what was talked about there. It actually did happen to us in the past in which we were building our companies. We did have somebody that we had talked to that we were talking about potentially partnering with. And he came and listened and saw our software that we were developing. And he thought it was awesome. And then several months later, we found out that he was essentially trying to do the exact same thing himself. And he just didn't go anywhere with it. We continued on. We grew our company. We had thousands of clients internationally by the time we got to our point of where we really felt successful. And his never even really got off the ground because he came from a place of, oh, that's cool, and just kind of coming from a cool idea. But he didn't have the passion behind it. It didn't really go anywhere and didn't really take off. And I think more times than not, that's really what you see.
Right. Yeah.
Well, my particular idea is actually, the reason why I'm worried is giant companies such as Facebook or LinkedIn could take my idea and just completely steamroll my snowball right out of the market because they've already got a corner on social networking. So I'm just trying to make sure that my first step would be to build the site and app, and then once I've got it built, I think then I can attract an investor and use most of the second round of funding for advertising. Because if I'm not real aggressive about advertising, I know that's pretty much what's going to happen. They're not going to just come up to me and say, hey, that's a cool idea. Here's $1 million. Why don't we'll just take your idea. They'll just go ahead and steal it, So.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then later down the road, if I can gain a lot of traction, I could sell my business to Facebook.
Yeah, and most likely that's what will happen. More times than not, bigger companies have learned that rather than trying to do it themselves, they're really looking for the companies that are smaller, upstart companies, but are growing furiously. And if you get that kind of traction, then you get on their radar. And rather than trying to copy you and push you out, they just say, well, we have the money. He looks like this is going to be fantastic. Let's offer to buy him. And so you could achieve your dream. If that's your goal and that's your dream, is to start up and build something that you can sell and be able to make the money off the sell. A lot of people do that in the tech industry. That's easier than ever to do because there's a lot of big companies that are looking to do that.
Well, the main reason to do it would be as if then you would end up getting you'd end up getting more customers. If you want to do that just out of sheer greed, I think it's, in my opinion, is the wrong reason. Yeah. But I mean, some people are purely motivated by money. I'm not going to criticize them, but if you want to have more market share, and that's the best way to do it, then you just sell out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, maybe even partner with them or sell out, like you said. Yeah, I agree with you, definitely. To each their own. Some people, that is their end goal. They want to be able to just build it and sell it and make some money off of it. But essentially, they have to also have, the right mindset and kind of the servant's heart to make sure that they're satisfying the needs of their customers to have the right product built. And then that's what will make them successful to get there.
Right.
Absolutely. No, great question. Great feedback. Anyone else?
Yes, I have a question. This is Hemarajan. My field is very large scale integrated circuits, architect, build, test semiconductors,
Okay.
or plugins like intellectual property that go into the semiconductors.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my comment is that for a mom and pop business, or even for my field like intellectual property, you still need to have some territory in around you that will support you. If you're looking at intellectual property, you're not really a territory in your geographical area, but for intellectual property, your territory is in the air, where the ideas go out before you know it. As soon as you get the idea, somebody might already have the idea from you. So my field is a very wide area, and I'm trying to find the territory within, the range or a domain that I have that is much wider than a mom and pop business. What do you think about this field in general?
Well, I think just like you were saying, it's very wide and very broad. I think you really need to narrow it down and figure out specifically, is there a certain product or service, or is there one problem or one pain point that you can solve? Because if it's as broad and as general as that, then it just makes it too big of a chunk to bite off and chew just to start with.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and a lot of times it can be that way, for yourself. You work in it, you live in it every single day, and so you have so much knowledge and so much understanding of everything that you do and what you work in. But for your potential clients and customers, understand that they probably have a lot less than what you do. And so all you're looking to do, again, is go back to basics and figure out who is the customer you can best serve, and what are their top 2, maybe 3 pain points. What are the things that you can really do for them? And that's all you have to really concentrate on. Because if you try and do all of it at once, just like what you're talking about, your problem is that you don't even know where to begin. It's too big. It's too much to even start with. So you have to narrow it down and get more laser focused.
Let me run an idea by you that, as an example, let's say you have an intellectual property idea that connects to big giants like AT&T, for example. You have an idea that you can build something that does not exist today, something that you can, let's say, use to connect to 10 people at a time, a video conferencing idea, for example. You can have a product that can help you connect to several people, a product that does not exist today. And you can just teleconference in a few people using a small product, just like a phone, for example. Today the phone allows for maybe 2 connections, but you can have a bigger set and with a small device. What would you think about an idea like that?
Well, I think any idea is a fantastic idea, and I think that makes a lot of sense as well. Again, given the idea that you just spoke about, I would say that the next step then is, finding out exactly, talk to your customer base, potential customer base, talk to all of your network. Find out exactly what are the pain points of people, what does this solve for them. It also has to be a pain big enough that they're willing to pay for it, understandably. So fantastic idea, but you also need to make sure that it is feasible in order to build something like this that people will pay enough money for, that it solves a big enough pain for them so that you can continue on viability with the business.
Okay, my idea is not completely developed, but it is in the stages of thinking where you can grow a connection. So that's an idea still in development, and I will work on it and see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I encourage you to keep developing that.
Thank you.
So when I teach the lean startup business plan to my main street clients for apply to small business. And often I give the example of Amazon. When Amazon started, all they did were they had a problem to solve. The problem was books were difficult to get, difficult to find, because at the time all we had were book clubs, libraries, and then bookstores, right, to find if you're looking for a good book. No, we didn't realize we had that problem because we'd spent centuries, figuring out how to get books. But when the internet came on and Amazon came up with this idea, they only started with books. They didn't start with videos. They didn't start with others. Imagine if at the time in 1994, Amazon had said, oh, we're going to build this giant e-commerce site and we're going to put all these products, including washing machine and food and all these beauty products. If they had done that, Amazon probably would not exist today.
Yeah.
To illustrate your point, right? You begin with a small, very narrow, very niche idea that you develop, you make it successful, you make it work. And then as you progress and you listen to your customers' feedback, then you can add on or expand your idea. So I feel like this Amazon idea is a perfect illustration why you need to niche down your product as much as possible.
Yeah, you can't do everything in the world at an absolute expert level.
And for everybody.
Figure out your laser focused thing, become an absolute expert at that. You can always expand on it later. Right. And then eventually, like you said, what did Amazon become? Well, really, they figured out how to make shopping just that much easier and more convenient.
Right.
That's really the problem they solved.
The bigger problem that they were solving. They were not really solving the problem of books. They were solving the problem, accessing knowledge in an easier way than we were used to.
Exactly.
And I think it's for everybody a good way to remember, why do I need to niche down? Plus, if you niche down, big companies may not be interested in your little niche until they realize it's successful, right?
Exactly.
The other thing about Amazon was the timing. I think they solved the problem of how to buy stuff online, because Amazon and eBay were the first online shops, I think, and so they were like the first ones in back in 1996 or 1995 or whenever it was. And eBay didn't make as much money, did they? Amazon owns the whole planet now, but for some reason eBay, I guess because they were doing auctions of, didn't execute as well as Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, they each filled a different niche. As you said, eBay kind of went more of the auction, more of the bargain hunters, and Amazon just simply made things easy. Brought the store right to your laptop or your computer, so you could sit here and just click, and it shows up on your doorstep.
So they took advantage of a trend, actually, or maybe at the time it was a fad, right? When buying stuff on the internet, was a little considered risky then, right? Dishing out your credit card and putting your credit card information online. A lot of people were very reluctant to that. And I think that's also why that's why Amazon was looking for their early adopters. Those were the people who loved books and who were willing to buy stuff online on the internet at the time in 1994, 96, right?
Yep, they did exactly what we talked about. Figured out who is their ideal client, made it very simple, gave them exactly just the few things that they really want and needed, and they went and got some funding and got started and just started getting those clients. And they started in the same place what we're talking about now.
Right. Any other questions, anyone?
I guess the timing issue right now would be the COVID. So you have people telecommuting from home, and that's a gigantic timing issue opportunity for especially what you two are doing as business consultants, because a lot of people lose their jobs. They're going to need to start a business.
Yep, absolutely. You bring up a fantastic point, James. Any time that there's a shift in the world or a shift in our economy, just a shift in our way of lives, look at it as an opportunity. If you can see and understand how things are changing and where it's going, you have an opportunity to build and do something new to help make it easier for people to satisfy their needs. And so where other people might see it as a problem or, oh my gosh, this is destroying our way of life, it's creating an opportunity for a new way of life. And yeah, that's exactly it. Timing is the timing is always there, and just take advantage of it. Keep it simple and go after it.
Right. Well, whenever you have a problem, you have the potential for solution. Our problem right now is this pandemic. Right? So what are the multiple solutions
Right.
that be needed in people's life due to that huge, disruption in the world?
Yep,
So,
absolutely.
I mean, my view is that everybody needs a business, whether they have a job or not, because the world is becoming so uncertain that if you don't have a business, you're not creating a safety net in your life. You need, whether it's a big tech business or a small tech business that you're going to grow big, or just a mom and pop little business on the side that takes a little bit of your time while you continue your other career. And, everyone needs to realize that, financially to be safe in this world, you need to have some ways of being self-sufficient, and business ownership and starting a business is one of those ways.
Absolutely.
So we are 5 minutes from the hour. Any other questions? Anyone? Or would you like to end the conversation with some closing remarks?
The only other thing also, I think the other big change is a lot of people doing video. Instead of watching TV, people are watching YouTube or Patreon or Vimeo. And I think it's a great way to, if you have a video on how to start a business, that's a great way. You guys are using Meetup, which is another great way, but a video on how to get your business started. That's basically a free ad that you can do nowadays.
Absolutely.
And that leads me to a good point. Tyler has actually another instructional video on how to start a business, how to start. So I'm going to put the links for you guys into the replay of this video, and also send you access to those instructional videos. And if you want to continue speaking with Tyler, and you have an idea that you would like his help to take to market, I'll give you all his contact information. But right now, do you want to tell us a little bit about the book that you wrote, Start IT Now, and recommend maybe for people to read it first? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. You can get my book, Start It or IT Now. It is on Amazon, and so you can get a digital copy of it there. And yeah, absolutely. I wrote my book as a little bit of a journey, talking about my past and how I started out in business, and just basically a little bit of instructional guide as well, helping to share my experiences to help other people that want to start their own business on how to do it. So talking about these different things that we did, how we bootstrap things together, how we figured out our clients, and how we got funding to basically make our dreams come true. And that's exactly what, the intention of it is, to connect with as many people as possible and be able to help everyone do that. So if anyone has an idea and you're just not sure where to get started, that's exactly where I want to come in and be able to help you do exactly that, kind of organize things a little bit with you and kind of help you along the way.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ty. That was a very, very instructive session. And everybody, thank you for your questions. They were very good questions that helped guide the conversation. And I look forward to sending you all the replays. And until then, cheers to building a life you love. Take care.
Thank you, Patricia. And thank you, everyone.